Great. Well, hello everyone at St Mary's and also at St Helens. Mr. Spence here, and really looking forward to sharing our assembly with you today. Our value for this term, hopefully you're now really familiar with, is that word compassion. And well, today, Reverend David, who is the vicar at St Helens Church, who I know you know quite well now, is with us. And he's got a story that's going to explore this value with us. And then at the end of the story, we've got a couple of questions for you to think about. And then we'll finish with a prayer and, like we normally do, a song as well. So David, great to see you. And I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's really good to see you today. And the story is about the widow of Zarephath. And it's a bit of a tongue twister. Maybe you'd like to say Zarephath. But it also has a number of things in this story that are happening in the news today. So the first thing about this story, it's about disappointing news. Now, I guess if you're like me, we're all a bit disappointed now that June the 21st is coming, that lockdown isn't going to stop as expected. So sometimes it's difficult to take disappointing news. And this story is about a person who didn't want to take disappointing news. And the second thing that is in the story is about miraculous healing. I don't know about you, but it was Euro 220 on Saturday, and Christian Eriksen, we all held our breath, didn't we? Because he had a massive heart attack, but he was miraculously brought back to life by the medics. And then, of course, at the center of the story, there is teaching about what it really means to be a person filled with compassion. Now, Elijah the prophet lived at the time of the wicked king Ahab of Israel. And he had to go to Ahab and give him a message. And the message was, there's going to be no rain. Now, normal people might say, well, that's disappointing news, but let's think how we can save water and get through the crisis. But Ahab just got angry. So Elijah had to run away. And as soon, of course, everything that Elijah spoke about came true. The sun came out and out and out and out, and there was no rain. And when there's no rain and lots of sunshine, all the crops died and there was no food and little food, and people started to get very, very hungry, including Elijah. And Elijah prayed, God, how am I going to eat? And God told him to go to the small village of Zarephath. And God said, you'll meet a widow there in the village who'll provide all the food that you need. So Elijah went off to the village of Zarephath, and he stood by a gate and he saw a widow gathering wood. And she looked a bit down and depressed. But he said to her, this must be the widow. And he said to the widow, please, can you get me a little bit of water to drink? And she nodded her head rather sadly and said, perhaps you could give me a little piece of bread as well, because I'm a bit hungry. But the woman told Elijah, I don't have very much bread at all. I only have a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour. My son and I were planning to eat one last meal before we died from hunger. And then the woman had compassion for Elijah. You know what? She said to herself, perhaps I should share my last meal. Perhaps I should make somebody happy. I'm going to die anyway. There's no food left. Why don't I share it? Then Elijah, the man of God, said something very strange, which he didn't really understand, first of all, something that could even be called miraculous. Elijah said, don't be afraid. Go and prepare the meal for the small, but first, before you eat the meal yourself, bring me a small loaf of bread. God, he said, God will not let your flour and your oil run out until it rains again. So the woman went off sadly to prepare what she thought was the last meal. Can I really believe what Elijah says? And then she bought him a bread that she baked. And then she ate what she thought was the last loaf. And then when she looked in a jar, there was a small oil and more bread. And it went on like that all the way through the drought. More oil, more bread, more oil, more oil, more bread, until finally it rained again and the crop started to grow. But then sometime later, the woman's son got sick, really sick. And like Christian Eriksen, he stopped breathing. And the woman was so upset. Why have I been so generous to Elijah, this man of God? Why is my son dead? And Elijah took the boy upstairs in his arms, laid him on a bed, and he cried out to God. I guess Elijah was upset as well. This woman's fed me all this time. God, 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 please listen to my voice. And God's a God who answers prayer. And the boy came to life again. And everybody was really happy.
A couple of questions that David's thought about really for the story that we want you to think about. And what the first question is this: when do you have things that you find difficult to share? So what kind of things do you have that you find that are difficult to share? David,
I do. I think there are things that we find difficult to share. I've got a classic car in the garage that it wasn't so classic when I first had it, but it's an old car now. And I'm very, my wife tells me off because I don't like her driving it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. So I guess the question for you would be to explore, like Reverend David's got his classic car in the garage. What have you got that you find really difficult to share? And it doesn't always have to be an object. It could be sometimes. I remember when I was a kid, I used to find it. I had two brothers, and I used to find it hard. I used to love spending time with my dad. I used to find it hard to share it with my brothers sometimes. I wanted to do something with him. So all kinds of different things. So what do you find difficult to share? And then the second question then is around the compassion word. So what does it mean to share something with compassion? So what's different about that when you share it? So what does it mean to share something with compassion? So two questions that are really good ones for you to discuss, and actually quite deep to think about that last one. So what we'll do is, obviously you can either stop the video now, teachers, and discuss it now, or pick these up at the end. And then David, we're going to come back to you now for a prayer, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a really simple prayer, but I want you to think about the words. Dear God, help us to share even when it is hard and costly to do so. Amen.
Amen. And that is really when it's hard to share, isn't it? When it costs you something. David, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for your story with us today. We'll leave you to discuss the questions in class. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.